Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and another audio upgrade on a classic car. This time it's a classic BMW, and in fact it's my own personal car. It's a 1997 registered E36 M3 Coupe and it has the stock system. So the plan today is to upgrade the stereo, the speakers and add some bass. Let's get into it. So although the radio and the speakers in this car are all stock, the suspension and the wheels are far from stock. So as I said earlier, it's a 1997 registered BMW E36 M3 Coupe Evo. So it's got the lightweight aluminium doors, it's got the 3.2 litre engine, manual gearbox. I have upgraded the suspension. It's on Airlift 3H suspension, and the wheels have also been upgraded to AC Schnitzers and the 18s. So the air install is where the spare wheel would normally be housed. And as you can see there, we've got the compressor, 2 tanks and the airlift management. We will be using the space in the boot for a subwoofer, a 12-inch subwoofer in a custom box, and upgrading the rear speakers, the front door speakers, and the stereo. Right, I'm gonna leave it in the hands of the engineers. They'll strip the equipment out of the car. I'll be back shortly, show you the stock equipment and show you the new tech that's going into this classic BMW. See you guys in a bit. Right guys, as you've just seen, the door cards have been removed, the kick panels are off, the stereo is out, and the rear speakers are out as well. So let me show you the stock audio that's come out of my car, and I'll show you the new tech that's going into this car. This is the original BMW business CD that came in the car back in 1997. Pretty good bit of kit back then, but now pretty useless, because not many people have CDs. It has no USB, it has no Bluetooth, has no DAB, and no amplifier outputs as well. So that is not going to be reused. So we will be using one of the new Blaupunkt retro units. There are 3 retro units in their range. So the latest stereo that they've just released is the Hamburg, which is good for 70s and early 80s cars. The most popular is the Bremen SQR46 DAB, which is good for sort of mid-80s up to about mid-90s. And then we have the Frankfurt RCM 82 DAB, which is good for sort of mid-90s all the way through to the noughties. More or less have the same features, but just to give you an overview, it's a shallow mechless unit, so there is no CD slot built in. It does give you Bluetooth, DAB radio built in. Underneath the flap here, you've got a micro SD slot, you've got USB slot as well, which is perfect for charging your phone, and you've got an aux in. And on the rear, we have 3 RCA preouts, which are perfect for upgrading to a separate amplifier. And in our case, we will be using all 3 RCA preouts. Front speakers in these E36s is a 5¼ inch component kit. Now, in the case of this car, you've got a 5¼ inch mid-range speaker, which is in the kick panel. In the door cards, we actually have 2 speakers. We've got a small 2.5 inch mid-range speaker, and we've got a small tweeter. We will be replacing the tweeter and the mid-range, but not the smaller speaker there. So the front speakers will be replaced with these JBL Stage 3 507C, which is a component kit comprising 2 mid-range speakers, which are 5¼ inch, 2 tweeters, which come with little mounting pods, and an inline passive crossover. On the rear, we have these pods which house a 6.5 inch speaker and a small tweeter. We will be replacing them with 6x9s, and we're not cutting any shelves here. So we'll be replacing the rear speakers with these JBL 3-way 6x9s. These are the Stage 3 9637, and we'll be using these custom pods, which just fit on top, and they will go into the OEM stock fitment. These pods can be used for the coupe and for the saloon. Now, Earlier I mentioned that we're not replacing the mids and the doors, and the reason why is the quality of the components that are going in are far superior than the stock components, and that 2.5 mid is not really going to be needed, especially considering we're going to have these 6x9s in the back. So the cabin sound will have a significant improvement. There'll be a lot more depth and a lot more top end because of the separate high quality tweeters that we're using. Now, in terms of amplification, the stock system had this BMW amplifier fitted, which is actually made by Alpine. We will be replacing that amp with this JBL Club A5055, which is a 5-channel amp. 2 channels will run the front, 2 channels will run the rear, and 1 channel will run the sub, which is going to be this JBL Club 1224 12-inch subwoofer. We're going to make a custom enclosure for the sub. There's also a bass controller which is provided with the JBL amplifier, just so that you can obviously play around with the bass. You can reduce the bass or increase the bass. We're also going to use some Audison wiring as well, because obviously we're introducing a new amplifier into the system. I'm going to leave it in the hands of the engineers, let them crack on, and I'll be back at the end of this episode, give you guys a sound test and listen to the system myself for the first time. It should be a massive improvement over the stock system, especially considering the rear speakers are pretty bad. They're ripped, they're shot, and we're introducing a fair amount of bass into the system as well. So guys, I'll see you shortly. So here we have our custom sub enclosure for the E36. Custom because we've made it in-house to the specs of the sub. Now the specs do vary. If you want the frequency to drop a little bit lower, the box can be bigger. If you want more of a punchier bass, tighter bass, you can have a seal box and possibly an even smaller box. We've gone for a box size that fits in the boot area and gives me still a load of space to use, but also get good performance out of the Club subwoofer. So this box size is 2.5 cubic foot, and it's got a slot port. The port is tuned to about 30 Hertz, made out of MDF, as you saw earlier, 3/4 inch MDF, glued and screwed and carpeted in a similar finish to the OEM carpet that's in the boot of the 36. Now I'm really looking forward to this, because I think, in fact, I'm pretty confident this is going to sound the nuts. The Club series subwoofers perform better in ported boxes. I know this is a solid box. I know it's a solid subwoofer, and I know the amp that we're using as well is also an exceptional amp. So I'm super excited to get it into the car, get it all tuned up, and then do our first sound check, because it should sound phenomenal. Right guys, installation is now complete. Before we talk about costs and money, and before I do a listening test, let me show you what we've installed in the boot area. So as you can see there, we've got the JBL Club 1224 12-inch subwoofer in the custom enclosure, which I showed you earlier on. So on the left-hand side here, we have the Club 5-channel amplifier. So that's installed there on the left-hand side. All the cabling is routed neatly, and cable tied. And you've got the controls on the front face of the amplifier for front, rear and subwoofer channel, including all the crossovers. Very easy to get to and very easy to adjust. And we've also added some Dynamat sound deadening, some behind the amplifier here. We've also added some sound deadening behind this trim panel to stop the rattle that you typically get inside the boot lid and also ensure the number plate doesn't rattle. Now, let's get in the car. Let's have a listening test. I can't show you any of the speakers because they're all fitted in the stock locations. Let's get in the car. I'll show you the Blaupunkt Frankfurt Retro Stereo and we'll have a listen to the new setup. So here you have the Blaupunkt Frankfurt RCM 82 DAB retro unit. Features wise, you've obviously got DAB radio, you've got your standard FM AM radio, you've got the retro looks as well, 3 RCA preamps. So in our case, because we've got the 5-channel amplifier, it's perfect because you've got full sound adjustment front, rear and subwoofer. You've also got bass and treble controls as well. It's got an equalizer built in, but most importantly, you've got USB under the flap here, not cassette deck. There is a 3.5mm socket there and a micro SD card, and you can music stream as well directly from your iPhone or your Android phone to the stereo. So it means you do not need to connect via a USB cable. You can stream the music wirelessly. So I have a track that I typically use which is YouTube friendly. I've got the bass controller here just in the front. I'll set it on minimum bass volume for the moment and then I'll tweak it as the bass kicks in. So let's go. So at the moment it's all about top end, which is crystal clear. Very, very, very clear. So the bass is about to kick in now, and we'll turn that up slowly. Oh wow, that's a lot of bass. Very controlled, very dynamic bass. Hopefully you guys can hear me. In fact, let me turn it down a bit. So the bass, as well as being punchy, it does drop very low. Now I tend to listen to R&B, a lot of soul, a lot of hip hop, and a 12-inch sub is perfect for me. If you're more into sort of a really punchy sound, then you maybe want to go for a 10-inch sub. For me, this setup is perfect. Wow. Very sharp and a nice punchy bass. Fantastic. Right, let's talk prices. The Blaupunkt head unit, the Frankfurt RCM 82 DAB, the Stage 3 507C, the Stage 3 9637 6x9s. There's a 5-channel amp, which is the Club A5055. And finally, we have the 12-inch JBL Club 1224 12-inch sub. So in terms of components that you see here, just under £1,200 for all the components. And then obviously we've got the subwoofer enclosure. That's a custom enclosure. That's £350. We've got cabling, so we've got complete wiring kit. We use the 6-channel RCA, and we've got those 6x9 pods. You're looking at about £150 worth of cabling. Sound deadening, we used about 4 sheets of Dynamat, so you're looking at about £100 there. And labor to install the stereo, the front components, the rear speakers, the sub box, and the amplifier is about £600. That does not include the cost of making the sub enclosure. That's a separate £350, as I said earlier. So in total, you're looking at around £2,400, give or take, supplied and fitted for this equipment. Now, the reason I've gone with JBL is manufactured by the parent company, which is called Harman Kardon. Now, Harman Kardon is the OEM upgrade that used to be offered for E30s, E36s, E46s, and so on back in the day. So it's period correct. There are many other brands that we sell on our website. There's cheaper product and there's more expensive product. For example, you can go to JL Audio, Focal, and Audison and spend a lot more. But for me, I wanted to stick with JBL for this particular car. If you want to keep the same equipment and maybe save a little bit, you could change the stereo and go for something like a Kenwood stereo, which will be half the price, probably give you a little bit more in terms of features, but won't give you that retro styling. And alternatively, if you wanted to save on the subwoofer, JBL do a subwoofer which is called the Stage 2 subwoofer, which is in a pre-made enclosure by JBL, and that's about half the cost of the club sub with the separate enclosure. I'll include in the description below all the links to these products, including a Kenwood stereo and the slightly cheaper JBL subwoofer. So there we have it, guys, the audio upgrade on my own E36 M3 Coupe is now complete. I am blown away by the way it sounds. You know what? I knew it would sound exceptional because the products are great and the installers here are great. So if you need any help or any guidance, drop us a DM or drop us an email or pick up the phone and give us a call. In the description below, you'll find all our details. As I said earlier, the links for the products are also in the description below. So recently we've done quite a few audio upgrades, and from the responses we've had, you want to see more. So over the next few months, we'll be doing an audio upgrade in most of my classics, such as the E46 M3 CSL, the 996 Turbo, the 993 Turbo. So make sure you're a subscriber to the channel so you get to see when all those episodes drop. Now, any questions, any comments you have, drop them down below and we'll answer them. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you smash the like button, make sure you're a subscriber, and I'll see you on another episode on CAS TV.